Diogenes of Sinope was originally from Sinope, a city on the Black Sea in modern-day Turkey. He became famous as one of the central figures in the school of Cynic philosophy, which was founded by Antisthenes, a student of Socrates. Cynicism, as a philosophical movement, emphasizes living in accordance with nature, rejecting conventional desires for wealth, power, fame, and societal approval, and practicing extreme simplicity and self-sufficiency. The word cynic comes from the Greek kynikos, which literally means dog-like, reflecting their shamelessness and willingness to live in ways considered socially unacceptable, much like dogs who live without pretense. The story of Diogenes walking around Athens with a lamp in broad daylight comes from multiple ancient sources, including Diogenes Laertius, a biographer of the Greek philosophers, and anecdotes preserved by writers like Aelian in Varia Historia. According to the story, Diogenes carried a lamp during the day, claiming he was searching for an honest man. On the surface, it seems absurd. A lamp is used to find something in darkness, not daylight, but this act was a deliberate performance meant to criticize and provoke. The honest man he was supposedly seeking wasn't just any honest person, it was a moral and virtuous human being, someone who lived authentically, uncorrupted by the conventions, pretensions, and superficial values of society. Diogenes' message was that such people were so rare that metaphorically he needed a lamp to find one even in daylight. He was highlighting the extreme rarity of genuine honesty in Athens, a city that was celebrated for democracy, philosophy, and art, but was also full of social hypocrisy, wealth-driven ambition, and political scheming. This anecdote also illustrates the practical methods of Cynic philosophy. Cynics often used shocking actions, attention-grabbing behavior in public, and deliberately provocative acts to challenge societal norms and make philosophical points. Diogenes lived in a large ceramic storage jar, called a pithos, which in ancient Greece was normally used for storing wine, oil, or grain, instead of living in a house, and this was meant to show his rejection of material comfort, and his commitment to living with only the barest necessities. Later writers in Latin mistranslated pithos as tub, which caused people in later centuries to imagine him living in something like a wooden barrel or bathtub, even though in Athens, he actually lived in a huge clay storage jar kept near the Temple of Cybele. The Temple of Cybele was a small shrine in Athens dedicated to the goddess Cybele, who was seen as a mother goddess linked to nature and fertility. This shrine stood in the Agora, which was the main public square of Athens. The Agora was not just a marketplace where people bought and sold goods, it was also the central meeting place of the city where citizens gathered, talked, debated, and did business. Diogenes lived in a pithos near the Temple of Cybele. He placed himself right in the middle of the busiest and most public part of Athens, not in some hidden or private corner. He wanted everyone to constantly see how he lived with no possessions and no comforts. His choice of location was part of his philosophy. Instead of living quietly, he lived openly in the public square, so his life itself became a lesson and a challenge to others. He owned almost nothing, and he often ridiculed powerful figures like Plato or Alexander the Great, to demonstrate through these public acts that social status, wealth, and possessions had no real value compared to virtue and self-sufficiency. The lamp story fits perfectly into this pattern. It's not just a humorous anecdote, it's a physical demonstration of his beliefs. The lamp is a symbol of the light of truth, moral clarity, or virtue, which he found nearly absent in human society. To really understand this, we need a bit of background on what Athens was like in the 4th century BCE. Athens was a wealthy democratic city-state recovering from the Peloponnesian War, which was fought from 431 to 404 BCE, between Athens and Sparta for dominance over Greece, and ended with Sparta's victory, and the conflict had devastated its population, economy, and political stability. Corruption, opportunism, and self-interest were rampant in politics and society. Philosophers like Socrates were already questioning moral values and the definitions of virtue. Diogenes, taking Socrates' focus on virtue and self-knowledge to the extreme, didn't just talk about ideas, but acted them out in daily life, using his own example and ridiculing people's behavior to make clear how far society had fallen away from real morality. So when we casually think of Diogenes' lamp, it's not just an odd image. It's a deeply symbolic act loaded with philosophical meaning. The lamp represents the search for truth and virtue, The daytime setting emphasizes the impossibility or rarity of finding honest people in a society obsessed with appearances, and Diogenes himself embodies the Cynic ideal of living in accordance with nature, rejecting social pretenses, and exposing hypocrisy.